ఇది నా సీటు. ఒరేయ్ రాము! బృందావనంలో కృష్ణుడిలాగా ఇందరి ఆడంగుల మధ్యలో నేను కూర్చోవడం బావుండదురా!
ఇది మనూరు అనుకుంటున్నారా ఏంటి? మీకు నచ్చని వాటిని దూరంగా ఉంచడానికి పెద్ద దేశం వచ్చాం. కాస్త మన అలవాట్లు మార్చుకోవాలి. మొండివాడు రాజుకన్నా బలవంతుడని మీ మొండిపట్టు మీదే.
చూస్తే చూడని నాకే మన ఊళ్ళో బావి దగ్గర కూర్చొని ఎంచక్కా నూనె పట్టించుకునేవాడిని కాదు.
4 ఏళ్లు తిరగకుండానే ఆ పెద్ద ఇంజనీర్‌ని ముదనష్టబధవా అని తిట్టి పారిపోయి ఇంట్లో వచ్చి దాక్కున్నారు.
Today we are going to have a lot of fun, Neelima. I can just sense it. Folks, July 4th, America is going to celebrate its 250th birthday. And right now, as we record this, the FIFA World Cup is happening on American soil. And one of the most wholesome things happening on the internet right now is the Europeans arriving in their thousands and discovering Houston and Kansas City and Seattle for the first time, and learning that America is not just New York and Los Angeles. And for every Indian who has ever moved here, every Telugu person who's packed their bags and landed at JFK or DFW or IAH, as they're watching these Europeans discover America and they're smiling. We are smiling because we know we've been here, we did this. Decades before the World Cup brought the world to America's doorstep, we came, we built our lives, we raised our children, we carried our language and our music and our films with us. We proudly call America home. Hello, friends. I'm Bharath. This is Neelima, and welcome to another episode of After the Interval.
इंटरवल के बाद
Today is a very special day. We are celebrating that with a Telugu film made in 1987, almost 40 years old, shot not in Hyderabad or Madras, but in Washington, D.C. and Missouri. And as we tell the story today, in many ways responsible for Neelima and I coming to this great country. Shot in the living rooms and shops of Indian families who had already made America their home. A film that truly understood the diaspora experience before the diaspora even had a name for itself. And here is the connection with all the other episodes we've done so far. This film exists in many ways because of Sankarabharanam. We will get to that. And Neelima, the cast?
Vijay Shanti as Sandhya, Thomas Jane as Chris, Shivamani as Ronald, Gummaluri Shastri as Adinarayana, Mir Abdullah as Ramarao.
I did not know that Mir Abdullah actually played the role of Ramarao. Oh, nice detail there. Folks, the movie we are going to rewatch today is Padamati Sandhya Ragam, because the best part of any movie is not the movie.
It's the conversation after.
Today, we are going to just talk a little bit about the diaspora in 1987. These were not the Indian Americans of today, visible, celebrated, controversial in some ways, occupying many corners of medicine, technology, finance, and to some extent, the government. In 1987, the Indian community in America was small, scattered, and largely invisible to the mainstream American culture. They had come mostly in the 60s and 70s on student visas, people who had left everything familiar back home and were building something new in a country that did not yet know who they were or what to do with them. They carried India with them in their kitchens, in their temples, in their language, and in their films. VHS tapes of Telugu and Hindi movies passed from family to family, watched in living rooms on weekend nights with other Indian families who had gathered not just to see a film, but to feel for a few hours like they were home. Neelima, what were your initial thoughts?
My parents lived in America from the late 60s to the early 70s before I was born. I have been exposed to their life in America through many anecdotes, photos, and books since my childhood. My parents would recall and share their American experience in detail whenever we saw any movie that is set there. Padamati Sandhya Ragam and the sights of everyday America was my window to their world. It was fascinating and aspirational for me as a kid. Padamati Sandhya Ragam was not the America of Hollywood films, the Manhattan skyline, the chase sequences, the fantasy. This was the America that Indian families actually lived in. The regular neighborhoods, supermarkets, Sunday afternoons, the completely recognizable texture of immigrant life. Arana walking around Missouri experiencing culture shock and yet completely certain that his values, his traditions were worth protecting, was not a comedy character. That was the average first generation immigrant who came to America and refused to become someone else. This film saw them, and in seeing them, it saw all of us.
I'm thinking back to my first recollections of the movie. I saw it one of the summers right before I came to America, and I still remember I might have seen it in 91 or 92. So it had been a few years since the movie had come out, and I saw it on a VHS tape, but I still remember seeing a station wagon for the first time and going, "Oh my god, how big is this car? How big are these homes? How big are these buildings?" Everything seemed larger than life. And I would say, in many ways, Padamati Sandhya Ragam was a big reason or a big inspiration for wanting to come to America, build a life for myself here. And I've lived here for 30 plus years. I proudly call America home. When I first saw the movie, the first inklings of that desire to come here, to build something like these folks had done, that lit a fire in me.
Mm-hmm. And the American dream seemed doable, yeah, by watching all these people.
And we are very lucky that way, Neelima, having come in the mid 90s, Y2K, just the technology boom started in that mid 90s with Windows 95. So certainly we stand on the shoulders of your parents, other parents that had come to America in the 60s and 70s, and with their grit, the determination, and the hard work, made a name for themselves. Today is a tribute to this great country, but it's also tribute to all the parents, grandparents, family, and friends that made America home and allowed Neelima and me and so many others to come and experience and settle in this great country. So thank you all for that. So I want to spend a few minutes just talking about Jandhyala Garu. So born in Narsapuram, not too far from where you and I went to college.
Yeah.
And he was known as Hasya Brahma, the Brahma of comedy. Died too young at the age of 50 in 2001, but he wrote dialogues for over 300 films. He directed over 40 of those. He made one of the greatest contributions to Telugu cinema by introducing the comedy legend Brahmanandam.
గోవిందం అయ్యా వానాకాలం వర్షాలు కురవట్లేదేమిట్రా? మరే వర్షాలు కురవటం లేదండి అయ్యా. వర్షాలు కురవనందుకు గాను నీ జీతంలో 10 రూపాయలు విరగ్గోసేస్తున్నాను రా. వాన పడకపోతే అది నా తప్పురా, వానపం విధవ. తొండం తెగిపోయిన గున్న ఏనుగు మొహలా మొహం చూడు. పోతావు రే, నాశనమైపోతావు.
And in many ways, Jandhyala's directorial movies, he had a range that almost no other filmmaker in Telugu cinema has matched. He wrote dialogues for Sankarabharanam, the gravest, most philosophically dense movie ever made. Radha and I rewatched that a few episodes ago. He directed Ananda Bhairavi in 1983, won the National Award for Best Director. That was a movie about classical dance and, again, artistic devotion, that screened at the International Film Festival of India. Just for it, as a tribute to our parents, we have to do Srivarika Premaleka. I
Yes,
think your
yes.
folks will love that.
Certainly, certainly.
And then later in 87 comes the all-time blockbuster Aha Na Pellanta.
అన్న నా రాజ్యం ఇలా పాడైపోయింది. సామంత రాజులు. వాట్ ఈస్ దిస్? నా గుర్రం ఏనుగు నా తొండం పెంచేసి గోడ మీద బలిలాగా పాకుతుందేమిటి? అయ్యో, నా మంత్రి మట్టి మోస్తున్నాడేమిటి? ఏమైంది నా రాజ్యానికి? వాట్ హ్యాపెండ్? వాట్ హ్యాపెండ్ టు మై కింగ్డమ్?
Again, just in 1987, two of our favorite movies, he just releases them back to back. Padamati Sandhya Ragam, shot in Missouri about the Indian diaspora, and Aha Na Pellanta. I guess, inarguably, one of the greatest Telugu comedy movies ever
Comedies.
made
Yes. Period.
about a wedding gone completely wrong. So, same director, same writer, two completely different movies, and that is Jandhyala garu for us.
Mhm. Yeah. And now the most extraordinary detail in the entire story, finding a young American actor willing to be in a Telugu movie in 1987 was not straightforward. An actor was cast initially and then he dropped out under mysterious circumstances. And then came Thomas Jane, 17 years old, dropped out of high school, was working at a hardware store taking acting classes above a liquor store. His acting coach called him and said, "There are these Indian filmmakers in town looking for a blue-eyed blonde guy." Thomas Jane told him, "Ralph, I don't have blue eyes." His coach said, "Well, you have blue eyes now." He trusted his coach, went and got the part. That 17-year-old went on to appear in Boogie Nights, Magnolia, The Thin Red Line, and The Punisher. One of Hollywood's working actors for 3 decades. His first film ever was Padamati Sandhya Ragam.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
And Thomas Jane, I actually remember seeing him in Hollywood movies, but I just did not make the connection
Me too. Yeah.
till I went back and watched PSR again. I think I remember seeing him in Face Off, Boogie Nights, but I bet no one knew that his first movie was Padamati Sandhya Ragam.
A Telugu comedy romantic movie.
Amazing. And then I just want to quickly touch on 3 other key folks before we get into the core of the story. So SPB as music director, Sivamani, who we all love as A.R. Rahman's percussionist, and of course, the living legend Vijay Shanti garu. So one of those rare movies where SPB was both singer and composer, and it was SPB who actually suggested the title Padamati Sandhya Ragam, Evening Raga of the West. And then of course, Sandhya is the heroine's name in the movie as well. Jandhyala loved it so much that he gave SPB Nuta Padharlu, $116 as a token of gratitude. And then SPB also suggested Sivamani for the role of Ronald. We'll talk about it, some of the things that didn't age that well with the movie. One of the greatest percussionists, no doubt, in the history of Indian music, playing a fictional character. And I had to look this up, but Sivamani's actually acted in a few more movies. But this is one of the movies where he's well known. And then Vijay Shanti as Sandhya. Vijay Shanti was maybe 20 years old when this movie came out. Her performance,
What a mature performance, Bharat. Yeah.
For such a young actor at that stage, maybe 20 years old, because without her story, there is no movie.
Yeah, I mean, she started off as a small supporting actress and went on to do such impactful movies, collaborating with T. Krishna garu, Neti Bharatam, Pratighatana, Repati Paurulu.
అడవి మృగాల్లా మీరు ఒక నిస్సహాయరాన్ని తప్పించుకునే అవకాశం లేకుండా అమానుషంగా ప్రవర్తించారే. ఇలా ప్రతి ఒక్కరూ నాకెందుకు లేని ఊరుకోబట్టే 2 లక్షల మంది ఉన్న ఊళ్ళో ఒక బజార్ గుండా రాజ్యం వెళ్తున్నాడు. ఆనాడు ఆదిమానవుడు న్యాయం కోసం వేసిన వెర్రికేక మన గొంతు నరాలు తెగిపోయినట్టు వినిపిద్దాం.
And then went on to do, some of those Dishum Dishum movies where they used to even call her Lady Amitabh because, I mean, her name herself would sell so many tickets, right?
ఎందుకు నమ్మరు? నీ కొడుకు కరుణని మానభంగం చేయలేదని, ఆ సమయంలో తన చెయ్యి విరగొట్టాడని ఆఫ్టర్ ఆల్ ఒక సిఐ సాక్ష్యం చెబితే నమ్మిన కోర్టు ఈ జనం ఏఎస్పీని నా మాట నమ్మరా?
yes madam
పిచ్చి ముదిరి పైనుంచి కింద దూకి చచ్చాడని ఎఫ్ఐఆర్ రాసుకోండి.
okay madam
దానికి సాక్ష్యం ఈ మినిస్ట్రీ. ఇతని దగ్గర కూడా సాక్షి సంతకం తీసుకోండి.
అలాగే మేడం.
She rose to unimaginable heights. She was charging on par with the heroes from what I heard around that time. So what a fantastic career she's had. I don't think we have seen any other, at least Telugu heroine achieve that much fame after Vijay Shanti did.
Yes, and this was 30 years ago. So full credit to Vijay Shanti garu. We want to just talk a little bit about the story itself. What holds up is the foresight, the vision that Jandhyala garu had, the way he's portrayed the scenes, the way the characters discuss it, especially in the beginning when Chris performs the last rites. or towards the end as Vijay Shanti is telling the full story about what really happened and the way she really helps her daughter understand some of the more important lessons in life.
సరే, రేపు ఉదయం తిరిగి అమెరికా వెళ్ళిపోవడానికి మేము 3 టికెట్లు తెచ్చాం. ఆయనకి, నాకు, నీకు. తాతయ్య పోయాక నువ్వు ఇక్కడ ఒంటరిగా ఉండలేవని, మాతో వచ్చేస్తావని వెర్రాసే కావచ్చు. మా ఉద్దేశం అది. పైపెచ్చు బిడ్డ తన కళ్ళ ముందు ఉండాలనేది ప్రతి తల్లి కోరుకునే కనీసపు కోరిక.
All of that has held and aged beautifully. What has also aged beautifully, fortunately, unfortunately, is we all know an Adi Narayana in our lives.
దేశం కాని దేశం వచ్చి మన సంస్కృతి సాంప్రదాయం మర్చిపోతున్నారు ఒక్కొక్కళ్ళును. ఇక పూజా కార్యక్రమం. సత్యనారాయణ స్వామి రేయ్ తూర్పిటేనా తెలీదు. రెండోది ఇల్లు చూదురు.
Even 40 years after the movie was made, some of the core lessons, we do not seem to have learned those. So the story in that sense certainly is true today as well. What has not aged well, I would say, Neelima, one, Sivamani playing a black African-American character.
బాగున్నారా? Hey man, I got it. బాగున్నారా? Mom, రండి కూర్చోండి. ది బొంద బాగున్నారా? భోంచేశారా? Ronald, what happened to you?
I think the intent was warm because he's not portrayed as a caricature at all. But if you made the movie today, the casting would read differently. I'm almost certain a black American character would play that role versus trying to force fit an Indian.
Yeah.
The other piece is Vijay Shanti. Yes, I get the story. I get that these two guys are in love with you. But girl, come on. You're living in America. You're not really trying hard enough to learn English.
What do you say?
Our wedding gullo.
I guess we could call that, when it was made in 87, charming. I think today you would call it a missed opportunity to show what the real experience looks like. The language acquisition, the code switching, the way you become someone slightly different, the way you try to assimilate. I think those things perhaps haven't aged that well. What's your take, Neelima?
In my opinion, what has aged well is Sandhya's opinion on Vasudhaika Kutumbam that she refers to towards the end of the movie. That's timeless.
ఈ గడ్డ మీద ఓ ముస్లిం వ్యక్తి తులసీదాస్ రామాయణాన్ని రాశాడు. ఒక ముస్లిం రాజు హైదరాలీ శివ పూజలు చేశాడు. ఒక క్రిస్టియన్ బ్రౌన్ దొర తెలుగు భాషకి నిఘంటువును అందించాడు. ఈశ్వరల్లా తేరేనా అన్నాడు ఒక మహాత్ముడు. ఆది కాలం నుంచి అన్ని మతాలు సామరస్యంతో బ్రతికిన ఈ దేశంలో ఈ 1 శతాబ్దంలో ఎందుకింత మార్పు వచ్చింది? కేవలం మా మతం మాత్రమే గొప్పదని పరమతీయులతో ఎందుకు ఈ కలహాలు కొట్లాట్లు?
And the lyrics, ఏ దేశమైనా ఆకాశం ఒకటే, ఏ జంటకైనా అనురాగం ఒకటే, ring true even now. What has aged poorly? Adi Narayana not bothering to educate himself about America. He got a job here, for God's sake. And him talking lightly about his women colleagues, boasting to the prospective bridegroom.
ఇందరు ఆడంగుల మధ్య నేను కూర్చోవడం బాగుండదురా. ఈ కుర్చీ బల్ల ఆ మూలకు జరుపుకుంటా.
అది పద్ధతి కాదన్నయ్య. ఈ దేశంలో ఉద్యోగాల్లో ఆడా మగ అనే పట్టింపు కానీ తేడాలు కానీ ఉండవు. కూర్చో.
ఏం దేశమో ఏమిటో. ఆడా మగ తేడా లేకపోవడం ఏమిట్రా? తల్లకిందులుగా తపస్సు చేసినా ఆడది గడ్డం పెంచగలదా? మగాడు బిడ్డను కనగలడా? ఏమిటో వెతగోరా. రేయ్, అగ్గిపెట్టి తెచ్చుకోవడం మర్చిపోయాను. కాస్త ఎవరినైనా అడిగి పట్రా.
దేనికి?
దేనికేమిట్రా? కొత్త ఉద్యోగంలో చేరాను. కాస్త దేవుడికి దండం పెట్టుకుని అగరపుల్లైనా వెలిగించుకొని.
Sandhya is educated enough to just read a letter written by her husband. I found that so infuriating. Him blaming his wife for Sandhya eloping and abusing Chris's dad in Achu Telugu.
ఏమయ్యా, అసలు బుద్ధుందా నీకు? కొడుకుని కానీ అచ్చోసిన ఆంబోతులా దేశం మీద వదిలేస్తావా? దున్నపోత మీద వాన పడ్డట్టు చలనం లేదే. వినిపిస్తాను అసలు?
I can't understand a word you say.
Dogona, your son has run away with my daughter.
Oh yeah, I know. Raynell told me.
I also agree with your observation on Sandhya. Why is she not going to school? For someone whose Pinny and Babai work, we don't see her even planning to become independent or educated.
For sure. I can't disagree with any of those. I think there were some, what we can say is, in trying to keep the essence of the story together, maybe Jandhyala garu intentionally did not develop certain characters completely. But it's also easy for you and I, 40 years later, having lived in
In
America for
hindsight,
30 years,
yes.
exactly, in hindsight, to be able to say, oh yeah, she should have done this, she should have done that. I think it's really hard for us to imagine living in America in 1987 and coming here because your brother lives here. And then if the movie were shot in the first few months after someone's come to America, I think those folks may relate to that experience more. All right, we want to quickly cover some of the musical elements in this movie. With Padamati Sandhya Ragam, S.P. Balasubramaniam Garu was not only the singer, but he was also the composer, so creating the melodic world that the film lives inside. And what he created is unlike anything else in his composing career, because the film demanded something completely unique and specific. Music that could hold two worlds, India and America, simultaneously. The concept of Indian classical tradition in an American setting. And then some of the Telugu lyrics used in the movie rooted in centuries old poetry. And then, of course, he composes an English pop song as well. So, sacred compositions and romantic elements all in that same soundtrack. Only SPB could have held those together. And the lyrics, Vedur Sundaram Murthy Garu, one of our favorites, "Ee Toorupu Paschima," great song.
ఈ తూర్పు ఆ పశ్చిమ సంగమించిన ఈ శుభవేళ పడమటి సంధ్య రాగాలేవో పారాణి పూసెనులే.
And then some of those ancient Annamaya Acharya compositions for Muddugare Yashoda.
ముద్దుగారే యశోద ముంగిట ముత్యము వీడు.
Sadashiv Brahmendra's classical poetry for Pibare Ramarasam, which even today in so many households on Sri Ramanavami Day, we play that.
Yep. Yep.
రామరసం రసనే పిబరే రామరసం పిబరే రామరసం రసనే పిబరే రామరసం.
And SPB writing his own lyrics for "Life is shabby without you, baby."
Life is shabby without you, baby. Life is shabby without you, baby. When you smile, dear Sandhya, gundala guba guba, kallalu tata, gundala guba 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 guba.
Again, we think about this in hindsight, and it's funny now, but kudos to him for trying to write an English pop song 40 years ago, composing it and delivering it in a movie.
And it sounds so good. I mean,
Yeah.
for the time that it released in, it was, pretty contemporary.
Yes. And I wanted to just continue this discussion on the music as we pivot into the next section. So, one more thing on the music, Neelima, is worth mentioning is the two wedding ceremonies that happen. So there is this beautiful scene where Chris and Sandhya are discussing and debating what kind of marriage should take place. And they both then agree in what's such a beautiful take, which is they get married twice, once at a church and once at a temple. And the music playing at each ceremony is completely both different and specific to that tradition. Foresight that Jandhyala Garu had is when the Hindu wedding is taking place, they're playing Christian music or Western music or music that you would associate with someone getting married in a church. And then later, when the church wedding happens, the music that's played is your typical Hindu wedding music.
Nadaswaram.
And
Yeah.
Nadaswaram. And so it's just the foresight, the beauty of being able to do that. So this is my first, one of the scenes that I loved in the movie Neelima. And when I was thinking about this movie, I also thought about Bombay that Maniratnam made. And I remember in Bombay that Kitty, so Raja Krishnamurti, he is a Brahmin and he plays Bashir, who is Shaila Bano or Manisha Koirala's dad.
Mhm.
And then Maniratnam cast Nasir, who's a Muslim, as Narayanan Pillai, who plays Arvind Swami's father.
మాకు అభిమానం ఉంది
అంటే అభిమానం మాకు లేదంటావా?
ఆ మాట నా నోటితో చెప్పచ్చు
అరచే ఆడపిల్ల అదుపులో పెట్టుకోలేని వాడు నువ్వెంతంటే
4 అక్షరం ముక్కలు చదువుకుంటున్న ఆడపిల్లని స్కూల్కి పంపితే పిచ్చి కుక్కల్లా చుట్టూ తిరగటం తెలియదు.
ఎవడ్రా కుక్క?
Maniratnam thought of that a few years ago. There is a story that there was a movie made right after independence where Gandhiji had suggested that they switch the characters for national integration. But I just love how Jandhyala garu thought and shot that scene. Neelima, what's one of your favorite scenes?
My first favorite is the Sri Ram Navami scene. Adinarayana's frustration when he realizes he forgot what day it was.
చిచ్చి ఏ జన్మలో వచ్చేసిన పాపం సప్త సముద్రాలు దాటి ఈ దేశంలోకి వచ్చి పడ్డాం. ఓ పండగ లేవు, ఓ పబ్బాలు లేవు, ఎంతసేపు వండుకోవడం మింగడం పడుకోవడం, వండుకోవడం మింగడం పడుకోవడం. నా మందు నా మచ్చనం ఎక్కడ, నా లాల్చీ ధోవతి ఎక్కడ? ఇక్కడ తగలటాలే నేను చీరలు వచ్చా. ఏదో బతుకు యాంత్రికంగా తయారైంది. అమెరికా పోదానండి అంటూ తల్లి కూతురు ఇద్దరు నా ప్రాణాలు తీశారు. ఇక్కడికి వచ్చేం బాగున్నట్టు? లేచిన దగ్గర నుంచి కాలంతో పరిగెత్తి 40 ఏళ్ళు ఉద్యోగం కోసం వెళ్ళే ఆరాటమే తప్ప. రామచంద్ర, ఐహిక బంధాల మధ్య ఇరుక్కుపోయి నిన్ను మర్చిపోయానయ్యా. నన్ను క్షమించు తండ్రి.
That rant is an all-time great rant in the history of Telugu cinema.
That's all of us, Bharath. That's all of our angst into that rant. I'm sure all of us individually would have felt the same feeling sometime or the other.
I mean, I just cannot get enough of it. వండుకోవడం తినడం పడుకోవడం వండుకోవడం తినడం పడుకోవడం నా మన్ను నా మసాలా. I mean, just the guy goes such an amazing classical rant. Neelima, 1000% one of the great scenes in the movie, no question. Fantastic pick. My next one is the hypocrisy that Adinarayana shows. So Chris comes to Sandhya's house and Adinarayana says,
చాలా రోజులుగా గమనిస్తున్నాను, ఆ కుర్రాడితో ఎక్కువగా మాట్లాడుతున్నాను. ఈ తెల్లవాళ్ళ నమ్మకం తెలుసా? మనం నల్లవాళ్ళమని వాళ్ళకి చిన్న చూపు ఎక్కువ. ఆ కుర్రాడితో ఇంకోసారి మాట్లాడు. సంచి తీసుకుని లోపలికి వెళ్ళు.
and then a few scenes later, Ronald, the African American guy, he comes home to Sri Sandhya and he says,
ఈ నల్లవాళ్ళ నమ్మడానికి వీల్లేదు. మనం తెల్లవాళ్ళమని అసలే వాళ్ళకి మనం అంటే చిన్న చూపు.
మరి అప్పుడు తెల్లవాళ్ళని నమ్మకూడదన్నా?
అంటే అప్పుడు అలా అన్నాను, ఇప్పుడు ఇలా అన్నాను. నా మాట నా నోరు నా ఇష్టం.
and then immediately Vijayashanti outs him. She's like, now you're just making stuff up, and he yells at her and he pushes her off. But that is such a cool scene because it is both funny and deep at the same time, which is Jandhyala's genius, right?
Yes.
To
Yes.
make us pause and think about our own hypocrisy within a few scenes of each other.
One of my other favorites is Suttivelu's speech on how bad things are in America. Smoking, drinking, womanizing. Jandhyala garu's tongue-in-cheek humor on the hypocrisy of some people who point fingers at America. And he's doing the same thing. Well, akkada andaru poga pilustaru ka. And then he'll be smoking, drinking and leching at this woman.
అమెరికాను నా ఆబ్ధేకం. అక్కడ ఆడామగా తెగ పొగ పీలుస్తారట. రోజుకు 32 గంటలు తెగ తాగుతారట. తప్పుడు కొంకలు.
The same vices he's accusing Americans of are so prevalent in India. In fact, mainly among the so-called cultured men like him. So that is also something I love about Jandhyala Garu. Like he just says it like it is.
Like it is. And that is such a phenomenal pick, Nilma, because when I was seeing that scene, the first thought that entered to me was that Sutivela's character looks like so many of the Babas that are now in jail
Mm.
in India, right?
Yeah, you're
The
so
way
right.
he talks, the way he's smoking, the way he's leching at that woman, and it's a short character. It's a CTMR moment. The character lasts 30 seconds, the CTMR moment lasts 30 seconds, but it is forever etched in our memories because the message is so deep. All right, my next one is a combination of a couple of things. As our kids grow up, Nilima, in America, and it is such a cauldron of various cultures and races, we won't think twice, or some of us may, when our kids are dating folks from other countries, other races. But in 1987, both the depth and the cuteness of a Black American and a white American falling in love with an Indian girl. I think just the cuteness of that romance, the way all three characters were handled, that was so beautifully done.
సంధ్య కులాసా
అరే నువ్వు తెలుగు మాట్లాడుతున్నావే
ఏదో నా బొంద
Sandhya, phone చేసావా?
చేశాను నువ్వు చేసావా
పంది లాగా మింగాను.
And then for all the angst that Adinarayana causes his wife, she puts her foot down because he refuses to go to Chris and Sandhya's wedding. But when I rewatched it, she's right there. So she says, if you don't want to come, you don't agree to this marriage, that is your problem. Just the juxtaposition of the two characters, right? Husband and wife land in America. Husband, educated, has a job, wears a suit and tie, goes to the office, is not able to grow because of his long held convictions. And she has already demonstrated one of the many pillars of Americanism, which is openness to other cultures, openness to other ideas, the willingness to learn and grow. And it is it's a quick scene, but just the fact that he's there and Jandhyala shot her in being right behind Vijay Shanti, hats off to him.
Yeah. That's a very minute but cool observation, Bharat. Yeah, wonderful scene. My next favorite is Vijay Shanti's speech at the end. The limitations man has set for himself after analyzing and summarizing lessons learned from his past experiences. That is such an amazing take on religion.
మతభ్రష్టం చేసి అమెరికన్ని పెళ్లి చేసుకున్నానని నా మీద నీకు కోపం. అసలు అసలు ఎక్కడిదే ఆ మతం? మతం అంటే ఏమిటి? గతం మిగిల్చిన అనుభవాల సారాన్ని క్రోడీకరించి మనిషి తనకు తానుగా ఏర్పరచుకున్న హద్దుల పరిధి మతం.
And then she says, elevate yourself and look at the world.
ఈ ప్రపంచం అంతా ఒక్క కుటుంబం, వసుదైక కుటుంబం. ఈ ప్రపంచంలో ఉన్నది ఒకటే మతం, అది మానవత్వం.
And Vijay Shanti delivers it with complete conviction. No melodrama, no tears, just the truth stated simply, directly, and without apology. Also, when their daughter refuses to come to America, Chris interprets Vasudhaiva Kutumbam, that everyone around them is like their child. So what if their own child is not accompanying them? They can see their child in everyone around them.
Vasudhaiva Kutumbam. I love that word. ప్రపంచమంతా ఒకే కుటుంబం అయినప్పుడు అనిత ఒకటే కాదు. వీళ్ళందరూ మీరు పిల్లలే సంజయ్.
That is the beauty of Padamati Sandhya Ragam, that 40 years later, some of the core messages of that movie perfectly intact.
Still relevant. Yes.
What
yes.
a great scene, Neelima. And in some ways, I feel like in Sankarabharanam, through Shankara Shastri Garu, Jandhyala came across or conveyed the points around caste and with Padamati Sandhya Ragam, he's conveying the same messages around religion and race.
Race.
Just
Absolutely.
brilliant writing.
Yeah.
And
Wonderful,
what a
wonderful
phenomenal
analogy,
pick.
Bharath. Yes. Yes.
So Neelima, what's your closing take?
Padamati Sandhya Ragam is the first Telugu movie to be shot 90% in the USA. Another first is that an American actor played the lead in the film. Other than Vijayashanti and Shivamani, the rest of the cast was based in the US. Gummaluru Shastri and Mir Abdullah, who performed on stage as a hobby, put together a team of amateur artists and crew, all holding full-time jobs, willing to work odd hours in making the film. That was also a first in Telugu cinema. From a movie depicting everyday life of the Indian diaspora in America to dishing some universal truths about Vasudhaiva Kutumbam, Padamati Sandhya Ragam remains relevant today and for the years to come.
My closing take is the movie was made in 1987 on a budget of $25,000. The depth of thought, the depth of explaining the diaspora experience, I think they get the diaspora experience more right than many films that have been made with 100 times or 1,000 times their budget. And it's not because PSR is a perfect film. It's not. The production values clearly show their age. We've talked about some of the scenes that don't age well. Some of the casting choices don't hold up. But it understood something true at a very deep level, which is that the Indian immigrant that comes to America can really become more fully themselves. Adinarana never assimilates, never stops being exactly who he is. But his son-in-law really understands the meaning of, like you said, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, and still lights his funeral pyre. So that is not a compromise. That is a conversation that Jandhyala forced on us. One of the more honest movies that you and I are going to rewatch, and one of the most honest movies made about the Indian diaspora. America turns 250 in the next week, and somewhere in Missouri in 1987, a Telugu film was already showing you what it was truly about, to have the opportunity to become a better version of yourself, to learn and to grow. So, wonderful, Neelima. Thank you so much for your time. As always, the conversation was phenomenal. Friends, next week, after the interval, gets an interval. We are 10 episodes in. Not in our wildest imagination did Neelima and I think that in 10 episodes, we would have close to 30,000 subscribers, almost 1 million views on YouTube. So we're going to take some time off next week. We'll post some of the shorts, some of the favorite scenes we've done over the first 10 episodes, and then we'll come back in 2 weeks. Happy birthday, America.
See you soon. Thank you all.
And please keep the feedback coming. If you have any suggestions for movies, you can always reach us at aftertheintervalpodcast@gmail.com. Alvida, goodbye. See you all in 2 weeks.